So, according to SCOTUS blog, after granting 15 cases from the Justices' long conference last week, Supreme Court denied more than 1,000 petitions for review, and among those were the request from the Biden administration to send a dispute over EMTALA, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, back to the lower courts for another look. Federal law requires emergency rooms in hospitals that receive Medicaid funding to provide stabilizing treatment to patients who arrive with an emergency condition that seriously threatens their lives or health. The law supersedes state laws when they directly conflict with EMTALA, such as the Biden administration's laws restricting abortion care. The court dealt with similar cases out of Idaho in June without reaching a conclusive decision on the federal law. So the court's denial leaves in place a lower court ruling, i.e. the Fifth Circuit probably, but the question at the center of the case remains unresolved nationally. There was a challenge by Texas and two medical groups issued by the Department of Health and Human Services to remind hospitals that in some cases EMTALA may require hospitals to provide abortions to save a pregnant woman's life or serious harm to their health, even if state law would otherwise prohibit the abortion. U.S. Court of Appeals for Fifth Circuit, as I said, disagreed and prohibited the federal government from enforcing the guidance against Texas after the Supreme Court's decision in late June dismissing the pair of cases from Idaho. U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar asked the justices to send the Texas case back for a new look. She cited not only Idaho, but also the challenger's suggestion that there's no conflict between EMTALA and Texas law, and the Supreme Court's recent ruling in a case involving medication abortion, which she wrote, makes clear that the members of medical groups challenging the law cannot be required to terminate a pregnancy against their conscience, but the justices turned down the plea without explanation. Which of course sucks, because one would think that if any of these cases that they denied, this probably would be the case that would need an explanation. So what do you do then? I mean, basically what the Supreme Court has basically done, what the activist Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has recently done, and they used to be the most overturned of the circuits because they're so hyper aggressively conservative, it's ridiculous. But they've basically said, hey, you can't enforce these EMTALA provisions on Texas. So now Texas does not have to give life-saving procedures to people facing pregnancy issues. And in some cases, those issues are, you need to terminate the pregnancy, because if you don't, the person is going to suffer long-term heart damage, long-term other bodily damage, long-term damage to their organs, or let alone sepsis and or death. Like in the case of Kate Cox, she would have suffered from sepsis. She would have lost fertility if allowed to have gone further. Fortunately, she was able to leave the state and get abortion care somewhere else, despite the fact that this was a futile pregnancy. There was no chance for this fetus to survive, and they were basically going to say, you're going to be required to take on permanent injury in order for us to follow the law. And now, no case where a patient is, potentially suffering at a risk to their health is now going to be allowed by the Texas AG, Ken Paxton, and the other parts of Texas government who are going to come in and stop abortions from taking place at all, pretty much, unless they narrowly meet the definition of what is allowed by Texas law. But the Texas law is so vague that the doctors can't really know whether or not they should act or not. And when the doctors and hospitals and Kate Cox herself went to go to the courts and say, hey, we think that this is a situation where the law should allow an abortion to take place, Attorney General Paxton said, no, we're going to come after you. And the Supreme Court lied in their ruling. And then they said, no, you shouldn't have to come to the courts. You should be able to do it. But who's going to do it if there's no clear guidance as to what procedures are allowed or not allowed, risking their own lives and livelihoods and their freedom? It's not going to happen. And because it's so poorly worded, it leaves such vagaries in the air that more and more people who are pregnant in Texas are going to face permanent health risks or death simply because these people don't understand science and want to protect a dying fetus from being, put out of its misery. If there's probably even no misery, but allowing the doctors to go in and do what appropriate medical care should be done. And this is to ignore the other cases where you have clear risk to the patient, but the risk to the patient is not immediate. Therefore, the doctors can't act, even though the doctors know that if you allow this pregnancy to go on and allow the individual to gestate for a certain amount of time longer than what they are now, you're going to end up having that person deal with major issues, major cardiac issues, etc. These doctors know if you have this particular set of conditions, pregnancy should not be an option for you, and you need to eliminate the pregnancy immediately. But yet, the Texas legislature and governor and attorney general think they all know better than doctors, which is just another reason why we cannot allow Donald Trump to win this fall, because we can't allow any more of this to happen. We can't allow Donald Trump to name any more Supreme Court justices. We can't allow Donald Trump to name any more lower court justices. And we can't allow the Republicans to gain power anywhere in this country, because more and more people are going to be put at risk because of their ridiculous policies on abortion and other things that are going to cause more harm to people as well. So, again, what do you think about this video? Agree, disagree? Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and have a good day.